Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Neville Medora here, and today we're going to talk about something that's been pretty interesting and on the rise in the recent years, and it is the one-person million-dollar business of the future. So in the past, you had to have a lot of people in your company to make $1 million. Nowadays, you do not have to have that many people. In fact, many people can do it with one person, or just like a little bit of help here and there from freelancers. And we're going to talk today about how we've all been able to do that, how you can do it, and the tools that you can utilize to do this as well. So let's get started. But first, a little bit about me so you know, I kind of know what I'm talking about in this area. So my name is Neville Medora. Some quick info about myself. I run a community of about 1,000 business owners at copywritingcourse.com. So I've done this myself and I see all the insides of other people's businesses doing the same thing as well. So I have, a bit of an attunement to the different processes and softwares and stuff that you can use to build a single person $1 million business. I also run one of the world's largest swipe files for free at swipefile.com. So if you want to just see like all the digital marketing stuff that we use on our own swipe file, you can check it out, swipefile.com, fully free. I have a personal network of about 100,000 plus on social media. So I kind of know what I'm doing there to some degree as well. I've sold 75,000 plus digital trainings. And I've worked with companies like Gartner, WinZip, Decked, Flipora, VidCon, Ahrefs, and I'm an advisor to companies such as The Hustle, AppSumo, Dog Central, all who sell primarily through email. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is about here is not brag, but rather say that I've been around the digital marketing space for a long time and been involved with many different companies in many different industries, and therefore I can pass on some relatively good and concise knowledge to you. I really, really hope you enjoy this. So let's get started. So there's different uses of leverage not available 10 to 20 years ago. When I first started on the internet, most of the stuff we use today just did not exist. It wasn't possible. Computers were too slow. Internet access was too spotty. There wasn't enough people on the internet. And all of that has changed dramatically, meaning that new tools have come online. New whole networks have come online that allow for communication in different ways, allow for selling in different ways, and allow for accepting money in different ways. And so the things we're going to mainly talk about here are code, media, and people. These are the things that have changed dramatically in the last 10 or 20 years that you can use so you can leverage these to build a huge company with very few people, perhaps just even one. So let's talk about some actual examples of this. So for example, code. Code can be repeated billions of times for almost $0. Okay. So if I have this little snippet of code, I can run it over and over and over again on my laptop for free. I can run it over and over and over and over again on Amazon AWS servers for just absolute pennies, not even pennies, fractions of pennies. So if you have a website, you're looking at code. Right now, if you're watching me on a video, you're likely looking at me through some sort of computer or a phone or some sort of device. That's code as well, and we'll talk about that. So code can be repeated billions of times for almost $0. In all of human history, we've had to do things manually. If you want to build a sword back in the day, you have to hammer the thing manually. You couldn't just tell a computer to go do it. Nowadays, we can execute code over and over and over for almost no money, and that is a huge, huge form of leverage. So let's go through some quick examples of what I mean by this. Sumo.com, it's just an email sign-up form. It's 100% run by code. Humans occasionally change up some of the code, but if 10,000 of you go and sign up for sumo.com right now, there's no problem with that. It won't crash the system. The system will totally be able to handle it. It'll be able to handle all the incoming money. There will be no change. In the past, accepting 10,000 new customers would have been impossible. Imagine that you're a supermarket and you're empty and all of a sudden 10,000 people walk to the store. Well, there's going to be a big bottleneck and the lines will be a mile long and people will just leave, right? Well, with code or websites or internet stuff, that's just gone. So all of a sudden you're able to accept tens of thousands, maybe even millions of orders all at the same time, depending on what you're selling. Let's go through another thing real quick. Airtable, it's a piece of software, much like Google Spreadsheets. It's all code. So once again, if 10,000 or more customers sign up to Airtable today or sign up even for a free trial and then buy, there's no problem with that at all. And then, for example, Zillow, I have the Zillow app on my phone and I look at home prices wherever I go. It's pretty fun. If 100,000 new people download the Zillow app, There'll be absolutely no problem with that. The code can handle it. The servers can handle it. The internet can handle it. Back in the day, 10, 20 years ago, if you had 100,000 new people sign up, that was a major problem with your internet bandwidth. Now with cloud computing systems such as Amazon AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure, this just isn't a problem anymore. And so these huge problems that used to like really kneecap companies from getting very big too fast are just gone. Isn't that crazy? So code is one of those things that just is absolutely transformative in forms of leverage. And then you can use it. If you use a website, if you use a spreadsheet, if you use anything digital on a computer, you are using code. So let's keep moving on. And this segues nicely into media. For example, right, I'm showing you a 10 million view video over here on YouTube. And if 100 more million people watch this in the next hour, guess what? If I made that video, I don't have to do anything. 100 million people can just watch that right now for free, for nothing. And the reason is all media is now code, or at least most media. Like right now, you're watching me on a phone, a device, a tablet, a computer somewhere. It's all code. This is not me talking. Actual Neville is off at a wedding right now, having fun. But digital Neville is talking to you, educating you, and educating others all at the same time, simultaneously, for free, thanks to code and media. So if you put out media on social media, if you put out media on YouTube or any sort of video platform, you are utilizing media as leverage because you don't have to sit there and explain something. Digital you can do it. And so my goal in the world is to have digital me train as many people as possible, not the actual Neville. There's only one Neville and he gets tired and he needs coffee all the time. But instead, digital Neville is always ready to go and always showing the best stuff each and every time. So I'd encourage you to think about that. How would you go about making yourself digital and training many people digitally or interfacing with many people digitally instead of the real you having to do it? So here's some examples of media being great leverage. Tim Ferriss, I just use this example because I feel like a lot of people probably know who Tim Ferriss is. He has an audio podcast, written blog, a video channel. He writes a bunch of books. And despite having several different mediums, his main product is media that he could show or sell over and over for a little effort. So for example, if you go and buy a Tim Ferriss book right now, he's not rewriting that book. No, some printer's printing it out somewhere and sending it, and someone bought it online and the money is transacted online. So he actually does nothing, like literally nothing for that transaction to enter his pocket. That's pretty cool. Whenever you listen to his podcast, you're not actually listening to real Tim, you're listening to digital Tim. Real Tim recorded for 1 hour and had someone post that podcast. And then you listen to it and maybe listen to his sponsorships, which he gets money for, all that kind of stuff. So he has utilized media very effectively to build a large empire. Copywriting course, that's my site. We are just a collection of text and images and videos and a community, and we go and redo people's copy and answer questions and do live office hours. But here's the thing. Most of the unique pieces of content we've made over the years as marketing, so videos, articles, it just continues to grow an asset because it's all media. So I wrote a blog post a long time ago and it took me 3 hours, and still to this day, it gets 100 signups per day. Now multiply that by many hundreds of different blog posts, and you can imagine you can build quite an asset with just one person writing a little bit every day, or even writing one good article a week, or even, if you write one great article a month or one great video a month, and you have 12 pieces that make several hundred signups per day, you can imagine the form of leverage you have that you can have a big empire with just one person. And then The Hustle, recently sold to HubSpot, is this massive newsletter, and it's just text and images. And I've been involved in making it. And what happens is whenever you just put a bunch of text and images, you could send it out to 10 people. But if you can manage to get 100 people to sign up, now you have more people. If you have 1,000 people, 10,000 people, and ultimately you got to like 2 million people. And so if you have 2 million people reading that newsletter, you can start selling sponsorships, ads, and getting a lot of influence. But here's the thing. To make that newsletter for 10 people is the same amount of effort to make that newsletter for 2 million people. Isn't that crazy? So the same thing you're doing for 10 people can technically go out to 2 million people with really no extra cost. Maybe some higher hosting costs for email or something like that, but it's very marginal. So that's why using media is so advantageous, because all media is now distributed by code, and code is infinitely leverageable. So let's talk about the hardest one to scale, people. People are fussy, people are mean sometimes, people are grouchy, people have things to do, people often can't meet. But people can be leveraged for different things nowadays in ways we couldn't do 10 to 20 years ago. So for example, different platforms such as Slack didn't exist 10 to 20 years ago, and it wasn't ubiquitous as it was. Maybe a lot of people had email 10 years ago, but 20 years ago, not everyone in the world had email. There was only 30 million people or so on the entire internet. Now, everyone has a supercomputer in their pocket. Of course, blah, blah, blah. With your phone, you can do texts, emails, any web. It doesn't matter. You can do everything now. And so now we can organize people and let them communicate in such a way that we don't need to be near them at all. Most of my employees live in different places. No one lives near me in Austin at all. All my employees are in different places, and we all just communicate with Slack and Google Hangouts. That's it. Those are both free products, by the way. And so people can be leveraged to use and coalesced in different ways thanks to the internet. So for example, people can be used to complete tasks using modern organization tools. So if we have a team of people doing outlining, research, writing, and editing, we can actually link them all together in a simple Slack channel. Now, people think like, oh, Slack channel, big deal. It's not a big deal. You have to remember, 30 years ago, if you were someone that had Slack and this capability, you would rule the world. You'd be far more efficient than any organization on the entire face of the earth, including the US military. So Slack is very, very, very powerful. And these simple things that we take for granted are actually great organization tools that we can organize people into infinitely leverageable systems. The other thing, and this is where I notice with a lot of our people in our community and other business owners I know that they have a lot of trouble with, is technical stuff, right? They say, I have an idea for something, but I don't know how to get it on the internet. I don't know how to make a web page. I don't know how to write code to design this calculator to do something. Well, guess what, my friend? Now, with the power of the internet, the power of these networks, the power of platforms, you can get all this technical work done. So I'm not a very technical person. When it comes to writing code, I really need some help with it. So I use things like Upwork, I use things like Fiverr, and I use things like Code Mentor. So Upwork.com is just a big platform for people who, let's say you need to do a WordPress plugin, you type in WordPress plugin, it'll show you all the freelancers and all the past work they've done and what their rate is. And you can hire someone right there. In the past, 30 years ago, you would have to find someone in your area that knows WordPress, and they might not even be all that good, and you might not even be able to see a portfolio of their work, and now you can. Fiverr is even more specific. If you want to make an AI WordPress plugin that does X, you could type that in and find specific gigs almost for that exact thing. And then the other one is Code Mentor. So if you are a little bit technical and you want to have someone just help you code, I go to codementor.io and use that to find really, really high-end programmers for great prices. So all that technical stuff of finding a technical co-founder and stuff, a lot of that stuff is kind of out the window now that you can just access all these people. Code Mentor is one that is a little bit surprising for many people. So for example, let's say you want to make an iPhone app and you just don't know what the technical specs are. You're just, you can't really wrap your head around it. What you can do is go to Code Mentor and just say, look for people who do iOS apps and hire them for 15 minutes or an hour, however long you want, and ask them questions. And they'll be senior developers. And you can say, hey, I want to make this app. What would I need to do? How would you go about making it? And they will outline it for you. That was something you used to have a technical co-founder for. And now you can really outsource all that stuff to really, really high-end programmers. And there's almost kind of no need to have a full technical co-founder if you don't need one. So now we've talked about that it is possible with these tools, specifically code, media, and people, to leverage that into a large $1 million business. But let me talk about the different revenue streams. So for example, I have one business with copywriting course, and I have 8 different revenue streams from that single business. Now I do other stuff, of course, but at the same time, this is one business, but has 8 revenue streams. Subscriptions, ad revenue, books, one-on-one consulting, YouTube ad revenue, which I guess is ad revenue, affiliate revenue, and then email sponsorships and advising companies. Now, some of these are pretty self-explanatory, like advising companies. I don't need to tell you all about that, but I can tell you about a couple of the really interesting ones that I find very, very interesting and an easy way to make a $1 million business with essentially one person. The number one is digital products. So I know this is a little bit small over here. You can take a screenshot of it or something, but digital products is one of those ways that is just infinitely scalable. So if I sell a $50 digital product about how to make digital products, let's say, I could sell this on Gumroad.com, AppSumo Marketplace, or through a simple PayPal button. And if 100,000 people buy it, all I have to do is deliver that file to 100,000 people and they pay me money. It goes in my bank account, end of transaction. There's no hangups with this. So digital products are one of those things that are essentially infinitely scalable. For example, if I write an ebook and sell it, every time someone buys that ebook off of Amazon, I don't do anything else. It's just automatically delivered. The money is paid to me. That's it. These are infinitely scalable products. When I first started in business, I actually started e-commerce stores. And the thing about e-commerce is ultimately you have something that you're physically delivering to a person, meaning like a little doodad, let's say a coffee mug, has to go to a person. So it has to go from California to New York, let's say. And you're responsible for that product the whole way. Sometimes it doesn't show up. Sometimes it shows up broken and they have to send it back from New York to California all of a sudden. And that presents a lot of problems moving stuff around the real world. And from that experience doing e-commerce, I really did not like that model as much. The bad part is if you buy this coffee mug from me and pay me $10 for it, now I have to have that in stock or pay to have that shipped to you. So it costs me money to make that sale. Whereas with digital products, none of these things actually cost any money to deliver. So if I give a webinar or sell a report or sell a digital template on Canva, that costs me no money to send you. So with physical products, sometimes I would get a shipment that's going to a foreign country and it would be $5,000 worth of product. That means I would have to put up roughly $2,500 of my own money to send that product. And then if it didn't arrive, the person would file a chargeback or complain, and I would be out of that $2,500. And the thing is, I wouldn't even make any money. I'd just be in the hole. With digital products, you usually don't go in the hole. Unless you're spending money on paid ads or something, you will always be profitable. That is why you see so many people who become big influencers and they'll of course release a digital product. And you're like, why would they sell a course? It's because the economics are so ridiculous for these things that it just makes sense a lot of times to sell a small product that you make once and can sell over and over and over again. And so different digital products you could sell are as such informational products, of course, software and apps, software and licenses. Not everyone can just build software and sell it, but that is a thing. Mobile apps, WordPress plugins, SaaS subscriptions. One of the things I personally offer, we offer a community. So it's like a SaaS subscription. It's $97 a month. And as long as people stay on, they pay me $97 a month and they get access to our community, course, and services, right? So that's a digital subscription. And that's even better because it's a recurring subscription. So every month people pay for it. So it's a bit of a steadier income rather than like, oh, I make a sale over here, I make a sale over here like that. And then the other thing is services like consulting. Consulting is great, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the cool thing is you don't go in the hole for it if you're doing a virtual consulting. So for example, I do one-on-one consulting, but I never go in person. I used to, and now I don't. I only do virtual because it takes exactly an hour. I don't have to get ready for it. You know, you don't even know what kind of pants I'm wearing over here, and I could just do a consult like this. So those are all great things. And then also niche specific products, fitness plans, cooking recipes, beauty guides, etc. And of course, if you start going into more specific things like niche things for doctors or something, you can start charging quite a bit of money for digital products. Let's talk about ad revenue real quick. This is a popular one, and I think it's cool when people make ad revenue, but I generally see people not being able to completely live off of just ad revenue. There are some people, maybe, you know, Mr. Beast makes a lot of money off of ad revenue, but for the most normal person, they won't make a full-time living off ad revenue. It's more supplemental. So for example, if you have a website like I do with swipefile.com, if you go to swipefile.com, you'll notice that it has a lot of ads all over it. And if someone clicks one of those, I get a couple cents. And if 100,000 people or more visit in a few weeks, then I could potentially make a decent amount of income for it. So it pays for itself. YouTube is the same. If you have a lot of YouTube videos and they get a lot of views, you could potentially get more ad revenue. And if you talk about things like finance or health, you'll potentially get much higher revenue than if you talk about something like knitting, where you'll get lower revenue for your ads. And then platforms like Twitter/X are experimenting with just paying people the ad revenue splits. And so I think we're going to see a lot of social networks move to this, where that if you bring in a lot of views and a lot of interest in the platform, then they'll start paying you for it. The other thing is sponsorships. Most people make their money with sponsorships. So if you have a large YouTube channel, you might get a couple $100 a month in ad revenue. However, a company like Ahrefs would say, hey, we'll sponsor you for $10,000 to promote our SEO product. And so that's actually the way that most people make more revenue than just simple ad revenue. And of course, email newsletters can bring in sponsorships, ad revenue, et cetera, as well. Here's another one that's been impacted quite a bit by modern things in the last 10 or 20 years. One-on-one consulting. I actually think that one-on-one consulting has shifted quite a bit. It used to be that you go to a place. So I've actually been hired to go to companies, and it is good money, but the thing is you have to really spend a lot of time. I have to go fly somewhere, I have to get ready, I have to take a flight. I have to go get set up with a hotel. I have to come into a company. We spend a couple hours together. Then we do it the next day. Then I have to fly home. It takes a lot of time. Instead, a lot of the one-on-one consulting I've done is all virtual. Even if they live near me, I will not go to them because the virtual component of consulting is so much better. So if you and me decide to do one-on-one consulting, what happens is I say, I'm going to send you a Google Hangouts or Zoom link. We get on a call like this and we share our screens and just start working together right away. As soon as we get on the call, we can start working. There's not a lot of pleasantries. And as soon as we get off the call, we're done. There's no like packing up and going home or anything like that. So one-on-one consulting is a great way. And I've seen people just make $1 million a year just doing this. So for example, a client of mine does design sprints, and they do design sprints for Google, Airbnb, and different things like that. And all they do is they facilitate a 4-day call, and it's a few hours a day with the design teams. And they do what's known as a design sprint. And he just facilitates saying like, what about this? What about that? What about that? And the team communicates with each other all virtually. And they do design sprints, and companies will pay a lot of money for things like this. And it's all virtual. It doesn't really matter where everyone is. Since they have a lot of remote employees, it makes sense to do it all virtual. So one-on-one consulting is a definite way to make supplemental income for your business. But also I have seen people do $1 million one-person business with just consulting. Isn't that wild? And thanks to all the modern stuff. That's it. The other thing that I've seen, and I've got to put this in here, is because I've done a lot of like passive income type things before in the past, like swipefile.com kind of runs itself and it makes ad revenue. But I will say the number one passive income thing I've ever done in my entire life is write books. So I have a few books, but this is the main one. This book will teach you how to write better. This book makes me between $500 and $1,000 a month, still to this day, and I wrote it 10 years ago. It was kind of just on a lark. It took me about 2 to 3 months to write, not steady work, but just like a few hours each day. And I put it out. And what happens is, if you go on Amazon, it has 1,000+ reviews. And because it has 1,000+ reviews, when people click on it, they go, hey, this might be a good book. I'll buy it. And they buy it, and Amazon pays me at the end of the month. I do nothing. Since the time I released this book, I've done no promotion, no nothing. Amazon system has done it. Amazon system handles any returns, any problems, any feedback, etc. And then it keeps selling. And so this has been the number one most passive income thing I've ever done. If I was a smarter man, I would have written a book every single year for the last 10 years. And so there are these different ways of passive income that aren't as obvious to people. And I think writing a book is one of them. Not only that, but you get kind of the glamour of writing a book. There's something about when you hold up a book to someone, they're just like, whoa, a book, that's great. There's something still about it that's really cool. So that's one of those things I feel like I have to mention to you, that a book is the most passive income thing I've ever done in my entire life. And then finally, I'll put this one in here because it's so popular right now, and it's newsletters, email newsletters. Like I mentioned for The Hustle, if you're sending an email to just 10 people on your list, it takes about the same amount of time to make that email as one that's going to 2 million people. And so newsletters are this way of collecting emails, which is very important because you control the distribution to your audience. And then you also get the benefit of being able to promote whatever you want in your email newsletter, or you can accept sponsorships. So I have a newsletter called, if you go to copywritingcourse.com/newsletter, I have one called the Swipes email. And basically it's different sections, swipe, interesting, picture, update, sketch, different sections like that. And every week I send out that email newsletter. And because almost 60,000 people read it now, I can actually accept sponsorships from time to time where people pay me several $1,000s just to mention their product in the newsletter. Or if I want to promote something of my own, let's say copywriting course, I can promote that in there and make money that way. I could also put ads and things like that if I want, but basically that distribution is what you get with the newsletter. And so I will say a newsletter is a great way to start building the email newsletter list. More and more people are doing it, so it is competitive, but at the same time, having an email list is very, very powerful, as 80% of the revenue generated on the web still comes from email. So that is my quick recap on the $1 million business of the future. I think a lot of people think to have a business, you have to have a lot of employees. And I've just seen over and over again from myself and other people that this is not necessarily the case anymore. I'm very good at anything that myself or employees have to do and click multiple times. I'll get a developer to create a module or some sort of script to automatically do that thing. And by doing that, you take the humans out of the equation and just let the computer do it and let the humans do much cooler, higher level stuff. So once again, if my name is Neville Medora, if you want to follow me, I've got some links over here. First of all, you can join my copywriting course, get direct access to myself and professional writers in our community. So we have about 1,000 members in this community, and you can just get 10x better at copywriting and digital marketing skills from our trainings. But then we also have live office hours every week where you get to talk to me like this. We share our screens and work on your stuff together. And also have a 24/7 review forum. We have a custom forum built just for copywriters where you go and post your stuff and we review it, myself, other writers, and other professional writers in the community. You'd also get one-on-one consulting from me if you want, copywritingcourse.com/work. You can subscribe to my newsletter, which is copywritingcourse.com/newsletter. It's the Swipes email. Follow along on social or buy my book. This book will teach you how to write better. And so with Copywriting Course, by the way, you can learn from courses, get really good at copywriting, digital marketing, 24/7 review forum, live office hours. And we also train people at big and small companies. I think a lot of people don't realize this. We do it from basic people trying to prove their first MVP or actual copywriters doing client work, all the way up to mid-sized companies to very large companies. So everyone's in there and I welcome you aboard. And then finally, we got some reviews and stuff of all the stuff that we've helped people with, and I would love to help you with too. I hope you enjoyed learning from this. And once again, if you want to follow me, go over here. My name is Neville Medora, and I hope you have learned some of the secrets to leveraging a large business from just one person. My name is Neville Medora. I will talk to you later.